nurse is you need to do a presentation as part of our evidence-based practice class. And I'm kind of glad I'm doing this because some of you guys know very well what it is. Other people have heard us talk about it. Evidence-based practice is, well, I'll talk about it, but my project was on the benefits and the risks of early ambulation. And I wanted to briefly talk about evidence-based so you have some clue what the heck I'm doing here. So what evidence-based practice is using the best practice techniques available to help our patients. We're not just doing stuff because we always did it. We're not just doing it because it seemed like a good idea. People go out, they do research in the hospitals, and like the cardioclapsy stuff. The research was done to say, hey, if we use a transparent dressing, we get fewer line infections than if we did a piece of gauze, for example. So we used to call it research utilization back in the day, but now with science, the science of nursing has improved quite a bit, as well as healthcare. We've got government mandates that have been coming down, and also just quality measures, like Matt was showing you. He shows us every month. This is how we're doing on all these things. So those are all of that happened because of evidence-based practice in the past. So we've got some concepts with evidence-based. You've got external evidence, which is the research that's out there, so outside the hospital. Inpatient or internal evidence is stuff that, like doing chart reviews, all those numbers you saw internally. And then clinical judgment would be like, well, I think it's a good idea to not leave this dressing off for 3 days. I mean, that's just not obvious things that make common sense. And then, of course, the patient's preferences and values, you always have to include them because this is where everybody's a team, including the patient. All of this contributes to evidence-based decision-making. Because it's not just what research that people do that, it's incorporating that here on the floor day by day, moment by moment. So we got steps of the process. There's 7 of them here. Create a spirit of inquiry, which basically means be curious. Always be looking. If you see something that could be done better, but you don't know how, we'll say something, and that kind of starts the whole thing. And then you figure out what question are you actually asking, which there's a standard way of doing it in a scientific way, so that when you go do some research, you're not just randomly pulling stuff that may or may not be scientifically rigorous and useful. And then you go do your literature searches. I mean, it used to be you had to pull out the microfiche, and I don't know if people remember that. I do, unfortunately, but nowadays anybody can go online with the internet. This has been really amazing to just see what all is out there and what has changed since the last time I did nursing school 10 years ago. So, and then of course you got to learn how to interpret what's out there. Okay, is this good? Well, this is just the opinion of one guy. I don't care if he's the president of the United States. A double-blind, peer-reviewed study, scientific study with a control and everything. That's way more valid than the opinion of the president of the United States. Great. So then you, once you get the best evidence, like with the dressing change, okay, well, it looks like these 3 studies said that using a transparent dressing is better than using a gauze dressing. So then you go, okay, well, you incorporate it into your own practice. You do a pilot study. Say, okay, well, on this floor, let's try this and compare and give it some time and see if we have more infections or less. And then once you figure that out, then you roll it out to the whole hospital and you say, we're changing the transparent dressings and this is why. So it's not just, well, we're changing it just to be different. Everybody who does it would know that there is some actual science behind it. So so I have some objectives: understanding the evidence-based process, and then my question I looked at is, what are the benefits and the barriers to performing early ambulation on a med-surg unit? So we'll talk about those, and then how to actually put that in practice. So PICO a question. In hospital, and the PICO it's an acronym, and basically it's each part of the question. In the hospitalized patients, which is a patient population, how does an early ambulation program, that's the intervention, that's what you're gonna try to do, compared to a typical ambulation program? That would be what we've always done, and that's where the difference is. We're trying to see if doing something new makes a difference or not. Does that make sense? Will it affect patient safety and outcomes, which is the outcomes? Within the patient's length of stay, you have to put a time, a time around it. That way you have a goal. And then you can measure what it actually does. So first of all, I did a literature search. This page talks about how I did it, what searches, engines I used, how I searched, etc. And I came up with 2 articles that really kind of talked really well about it. One was